All right, 3.5, five-number summary and box plots. Okay. All right, so let's skip over that just a quote. So our first thing is a five-number summary. All right, so the five-number summary is just the data that consists of the smallest value, Q1, median, Q3, and largest value with those. And we typically organize it as so with those. Now, the good thing about this is we know how to get all those things directly from our calculators. So here's a previous example that we had. And so let's go just real quick and back into stat, move over to calc 1 and enter. And so when we scroll down, we can see all of those numbers down here at the very bottom. We see our minimum for this one, our Q1, our median, our Q3, and our max, all listed right here within that one var stats. So we don't have to do anything different here than what we've been doing. We just put the stuff into L1, go to one var stats, and it will calculate all of those things for us. Okay, we don't have to pick those things out with them. Okay, so those are things that are real easy to do and continue to do. All right, now they're doing that here in the next few problems using this other information. So I'm not going to go through that because of time. We want to skip through those so that we don't have to worry about all those pieces. Okay. All right, so let's get into the last little bit here, and that's going to be looking at drawing and interpret box plots. Okay. So a box plot is going to look a little different than a lot of other graphs that you've done before, but we want to do those things. So first we want to determine our upper or lower fence. And so remembering those formulas. 2, we want to draw a number line long enough to include all of our values. And insert vertical lines that are Q1, our M, Q3, and enclose those in a box. Okay, and all those things we will do in just a moment. Okay, label our lower and upper fences, and then we would draw a line from our Q1 to Q3. Now these lines are typically called whiskers, so you also might have heard of this as a whisker in box plot in past. Right, any values that are outside the lower fence we would mark with an asterisk. Okay. All right, so if we were looking at the previous example where they had those age groups, we would go through and do those. So we knew, and we already found there in those previous slides, that Q1 was 26.06, the median was 30.95, and Q3 was 37.24. Okay, and so then from those things we could calculate our IQR with those. And then from there we can compute our upper and lower fences. Okay, so we have an upper fence at 26.06 and a lower fence at 9.29. Okay, or sorry, upper fence at 54.01. Wasn't reading, sorry. Look a little fast on those pieces. Okay. All right, so that's the first thing we need to do. We know that all of our values there are going to run within 0 to 60, and so we can put those pieces on there. So notice here that on our box, or on our timeline there, we have our Q1 on that listed with this vertical line. Okay, so we put a vertical line there at Q1, the median, and Q3, and then we make a box to complete all of those pieces. All right, and so they all match up with those numbers that are listed that we previously found. Okay. All right, so then we want to add the fences to that. All right, and so here on the outside you can see marked with brackets that we have the upper fence and lower fence. Okay. All right, so then we want to go from our lowest value to our greatest value inside the fences. Okay, so we have to be inside the fence in order for that to happen. All right, so that's what they've done here, is drawn those. So if we go back to our data values, we would see that we have these 19.95 all the way up to the 49.17. Now there are other values that are outliers that might be outside the fence, but we don't draw the line outside the fence. on those, and make sure that we pay attention to those details. Okay. All right, so then we find our outlier. We did have one outside that 54.01 upper fence. Now I would still have the fences here. There should be a fence over right about here, and then one over about here on those. So I don't know why those fell off there when they were making this, but you would want to still have those things. And that way you see that that outlier is outside that fence, and we know where that is, okay, for those pieces. And so there is our box plot. We have everything listed here. We have our fences. We have our Q1, median, Q3 there with the box, and we can read all of those pieces. Okay. All right, so then when we start trying to put those things together, if we see that our box is more to one side, we could have a skewed right, a symmetric, or a skewed left, all based on where the box is. And so you can still see the tell. If our whisker is longer on the right side, we have a skewed right. If it's longer on the left side, it's skewed left. And then if it's about the same amount on each side, we consider that symmetric. Okay. All right, then we could also compare multiple ones together and see how they look. And so here would be those. And so in this figure, we can tell what's going on in those different groups, where the medians and all of that stuff is for those, okay? And so it just allows us to compare any of those pieces side by side. All right, and so those are the things there that you're going to need to focus on for 3.5.